Morning, everybody. We um, have a not full house, but all the regulars are here. That's nice.
Not quite regular yet.
Yes, you
Well,
are.
twice
We're
qualified.
we're electing you regular.
There's a lot to do today, and I have a list of announcements. Helen, can you talk a little bit about the potluck? We're doing it on
Well,
the 15th of April.
Yes, and Lynn and I both talked because it's Lynn's idea and Lynn's the hostess, and we've set it up I think for 5:30. Is that right, Lynn? On the 15th.
I thought we said 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. That's right. It on the 15th,
15th, which is a Saturday.
Yeah, rain date the next day. I'm gonna, on the 1st, I think is the date that I had decided and talked to Lynn about, send out a kind of breakout of what we would hope people would bring to, so that we don't get everybody say bringing pasta salad, which I'm gonna bring. Somebody else can bring pasta salad, but we don't want 10 pasta salads. So if we can kind of break it out and people choose as soon as they see an email from me, choose, and I'll fill it in and try to send it back out real often so that we can kind of keep up with who's gonna bring what and get a good selection of dessert, salad, perhaps a meat dish or casserole, bread, whatever. Some vegetarian, some not. However, we can make it work. Somebody, if they don't cook, could bring drinks. So
I was going to say, if you want something special like wine to drink, you should bring your own.
okay. But expect that on the 1st, and Lynn will come up with directions how to get to her house, several, so that people won't get lost. There's enough parking on the street, right, Lynn? I've never had any trouble parking in that area, so.
I would just suggest, Lynn, to save you some time on the directions, I would just suggest an address because I'm pretty sure everybody can use Google Maps, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I could be wrong on that assumption, but.
I think the thought was not to put it on this recording.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The trouble is sort of like, it's very close. Sometimes Google Maps.
Oh, is it one of those addresses that Google messes up sometimes?
It'll be fine.
You're fine with it?
I think it'll be fine.
Okay.
And you can put my phone number in if somebody has a question or gets lost, they can call me.
So Google won't let me make a right turn into the pond there in Farrington?
And I don't think so.
No, I'm kidding. Yes, sometimes people have known to do that.
All right, thanks for bringing us.
We are hoping that everybody will come. The big thing is spouses are definitely invited.
As are significant others.
Yeah, of whatever's. And Bill, you won't be able to attend, so
I'll be at the beach.
we feel sorry for you.
I can see it.
Okay, moving on. The exhibit. Lynn, you want to take lead on that?
Oh gosh. So I believe that what we're going to do is put everything up on May 1st. And so I talked to Mike a little bit about it. So I guess what we need from each of you is, what you're going to want on the card next to your picture, your name, a title of the piece. I guess that would be it. I don't know if you need dimensions or anything. You don't need that, do you, Mike?
Mm-mm.
No, just okay. So just your name and title. And what we'll do eventually, we're a little far away, but we'll set up hours on that day that you can drop things off. And just keep in mind that it will be in a church, so they need to be appropriate subject matter. Not that I've ever seen anything you've all done that was inappropriate. But
There goes half my library.
The next challenge.
right. I'm excited about it. I think it'll be great. Oh, and one fun thing, our guy that heads up our choir at church has this group that does it's all men, and they perform twice a year. And in May, the month we're going to have our workup, they're going to be having a performance at the church and likely a reception in the hall where our stuff will be. So we'll have extra people to look at it. And I think the other thought is that maybe that first Saturday, the 8th, is it? I'm not sure, that we would try and have some sort of a reception, but we can talk about that if y'all would like.
And the other big thing is the size of the print really doesn't matter very much. You know, if it was paintings or whatever, they might be wall size, but I don't think we have to worry about any 4 foot by 3 foot pictures to be delivered for hanging. The hooks will hold the 48 pictures of average size, and
total.
One of the things that we need to send out is a request for how many you might bring, how many you would like to hang, and some dimensions would help, but it's not critical at this point.
And what also, depending on the kind of hardware that the frame has, does this have to be a wired frame?
I don't know.
The hooks might accommodate a hole in the back of a mounting, but it's safer just to put them on wire.
Okay.
Lynn,
So we have a few of the. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We have a few of those that are long, like so long, that are kind of flat with an edge that comes up. I don't know if a picture could be, if you use two, I don't know if those could be used without a wire. You know better than I.
We haven't unpacked those, but I think I understand how they work. It's just like a little chalk tray almost, and you can put them top and bottom, and but I think there are only 10 of those. I may be mistaken.
That's correct.
I think there are only 10.
Okay.
So the sawtooth would not be the best option.
Correct. Well, and we need to experiment a little bit. The hooks are not real sharp hooks, and so they might have problem getting into a small sawtooth or whatever. So wire is good. And Bill, you made comments about your Michaels frames. Do you want to say anything more about that now that we've got it to the exhibit part?
Well, what I'll do is I'll send an email out to everybody just to show what I bought. Just and you can see what the number is. So if it's something that you want, you can just go onto their website and do it without checking through 143 different kind of frames. Yeah. But it's the size of my choice, and after 8 years, I'm finally putting some of my images up on the walls now. So yeah, it's a good size. They work well, both vertical and horizontal.
Okay.
The last announcement, I think, is going to be quick. We've talked about an outing to a cemetery, and Larry has been the inspiration for that. And since I think he's in Washington State, but he, I guess, doesn't have Wi-Fi up there, so he's not here. But I think that if it's all right with everybody, postpone talking about the outing until next time we see Larry.
When is that trip scheduled?
I don't know that it is.
If it has been, okay.
What did you say, Chuck?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, does somebody know the date?
The challenge, we had never set up a time. The challenge for
April 11th, right?
yeah,
Oh, shoot.
is the result of our trip, and that isn't going to work. So we're going to need another challenge. Gonna need to change that.
Well, I guess folks can organize a trip if you want, ad hoc. I don't know when Larry's going to be back.
Why don't we just change the date of the challenge and put one of the other things in instead? That would have been later or later, and then that way it would give him time to set up a trip.
Yeah, that's a good plan, Susan.
Yeah. Frank,
Yeah.
Abstract, for example, was one of the ones that was
Do you want me to put the spreadsheet up that shows the dates for all of them?
Yeah, could we change, for instance, Abstract? Yeah, put it up, yeah.
Mike, could you let me share a screen or share a document?
You can do it.
I don't think I have to. I think you can do it, can't you? I think it's set up for you to do. Anybody.
Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because April 11th is the cemetery. It's the last one on the old block. And then we go into Abstraction, Starry Night. Do you want me to just reverse those two? Put the cemetery in for April 25th and the Abstractions up?
Yes.
Yes, I think that would be a good thing to do. And now Lynn has pointed out that the cemetery in Hillsborough is also very interesting. And if there are those, Lynn, you talk to it. It's your idea. I'm stealing your idea.
Who, me? No, I don't want to take away from what Larry planned, so.
Well, if there are people that don't want to go to Raleigh or to drive to Raleigh, Lynn had suggested the Hillsborough Cemetery also. So that might be an outing for those that don't want to make the Raleigh trip.
I remember the concern with the Raleigh trip was also that the house was in session.
Yeah.
And that might be a problem, I guess, on that, before that challenge. I don't know if that will.
So if you go on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon, would that?
Yeah, that would
avoid
be
the legislature.
Yeah, and what I was thinking, to get the golden hour, we might want to try to leave here at 3:15, 3:30 and get there by 4 and then leave after the rush hour. So that's during the week. So that's two possibilities. Lynn's mentioned the weekend and kind of trying to avoid the mess. But I think the cemetery is far enough away from the legislature, but it's just, and Larry says there's parking adequate. So,
well, and moving the things around, we'll have an in-person meeting to talk about it on the 11th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Bill, are you doing tips and tricks? I kind of let that.
Yes, I am.
Well, forge ahead. We have.
One thing I'm going to mention is that last time in the in-person meeting, I mentioned about sending out a document that showed like the 8 things a beginner should know about their camera. And what I was going to do is to maybe get some feedback from folks that might look through that document and say, you know what, I really don't understand that thoroughly. I don't understand it at all. And maybe start a list so we can maybe get a group meeting together of a few folks that want to fill in some of the gaps. So what I'll do is I will maybe send that document out again, and I can have feedback come directly to me, and then we can get something going. So, because I really like to start getting into some interesting things like focus stacking or bracketing and things like that. But yeah, I just don't want folks to be fumbling around with some of the basics and not being able to really enjoy some of the little more advanced things. So if we can just kind of have like a little workshop called filling in the gaps, just so everybody feels a little more comfortable. Okay, share my screen. Let's see. Which one is it? Ha. Okay, everybody see the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on one page, so I don't have to screw around with going back and forth. This I just put together for, so as a reminder to folks that there's a difference between a blur, blurry picture, and one that's created by camera shake. Camera shake is what we introduce by the way that we hold the camera, the way we move it around. So with the camera shake, the number one way to get blur out of it from a user perspective is use a tripod, and of course VR vision, vibration reduction off. Using your 2-second timer so that when you press the button on the camera, it takes 2 seconds before it takes it. So any shake that's even on the tripod goes away. Then on DSLRs, there's a, if you want to go one step further, there's what they call a mirror up lock. Because with mirrorless cameras, the image that you're aiming at goes right through the lens and right to the sensor and right to your LCD screen on the back of your camera. Where a DSLR, as it goes through the lens, it hits a mirror that goes up. And so we can see it through the viewfinder. So by using the timer and even going that one step of putting the mirror up, just takes that little extra little movement out of it. Or if you shoot it in live view, which means you've pressed a button on your DSLR and you can see the image on the back of your LCD, that means your mirror is also up. So number two is when you're hand holding, make sure your vibration reduction or image stabilization, whatever it's called on your camera, is always on. It helps with that little movement that is inherent in all of us, no matter how young or old we are. So the vibration reduction will help out a lot, and support and keep the camera steady. For people like me with a DSLR, I keep it close up to my eye, and then I keep my elbows into my chest. It's just helps steady me just a little more. You can support yourself against a tree, support yourself against a wall, something that will just take any kind of vibration out of it. Now, unfortunately, with some of the cameras nowadays with just the mirrorless that don't have a electronic viewfinder, people have to hold it out like they do with a cell phone.
Yeah.
And with that's just part of the game, I guess. And you have to depend more on maybe supporting yourself against something to take out as much camera shake as you can. The big thing is also ensure that your shutter speed is not less than your focal length. This is a big one. What that simply means is if you have a lens on your camera, let's say it goes from 24 millimeter to 70. If you're focusing on an item and you're using, say, 24 millimeter, your shutter speed should never be less than it doesn't go down to 1/24th of a second, but it would be like 1/30th of a second. If you take that lens and you move it forward and you go up to 50 millimeter or 60 millimeter, what that's now saying, you shouldn't have a shutter speed less than 1/60th of a second.
Okay.
And then if you go out to 70, or if you even have telephoto lenses that go out to say 500 millimeters, then your slowest shutter speed when you're hand holding should be 1/500th of a second. So, that's why I often ask people, especially at the beginning, to use the auto ISO, because it will ensure that it never lets it go too slow.
Okay.
Yeah, because what it'll do is if all of a sudden it feels that the shutter speed has to be slowed down to let more light in, once it gets to that focal length, instead, we'll start adding a little ISO, a little sensitivity to the sensor.
Mhm.
And so many times I've seen it, and I've probably mentioned this time again, when you're out traveling someplace and you're outdoors and all of a sudden you go indoors, the light changes so much that auto ISO just saves the day. That's the things that you can do as the user to get any kind of shake or reduce any kind of blur that you're going to introduce to the camera. Some people, you bring little bean bags with them. They'll lay it down on something and put the camera on it. You can put a camera, just sit it on a wall or on a bench someplace. If you can line it up and see what your image is going to be, that helps too. Then there's the motion blur itself, where, like I just mentioned, the shutter speed is just too slow. And, the faster the subject moves, faster your shutter speed's required. Just like with some of the images that, I guess it's Stephen with his birds. He probably takes birds in flight, which requires a very fast shutter speed to stop the movement of the birds in the wings and things like that. So he may be shooting at 1/3200th of a second, or even 1/4000th of a second, as he's following the birds. If it's a bird sitting on a limb someplace, just kind of minding its own business, there you don't need that super fast shutter speed. Use panning if you want to the moving subject to be in focus and the background blurred. And this is one where you might follow a bird, you might follow somebody doing a sporting event, you might follow a car going by. You try to keep the movement of your camera along with that object, and you want the object to be sharp and the background to be blurred. So, practicing panning is a good thing. Focus mode, whenever you're tracking a subject, there's a focus mode called AFC or servo on Canon. It's for subjects that you're trying to follow. This is often used when you're using continuous shutter. You're following a bird and you hold the button down and you just keep following it and it keeps taking image shots of it. If you have that first one where your focus point is on your bird and it's locked on it, it will follow it all through the frame. So that's something that I want to get into more, with some of these little workshops. And then last, use the best focus point. For standard images, I usually use just the one focus point, and I try to use the center one. If it's going to be something that might be moving around a little bit, I use what they call in Nikon, a D25. So you have your center focus point, but then it kind of activates all the focus points around that focus point. So if your subject moves a little bit and you don't, it will follow the subject and try to keep it in focus.
Okay.
So, so often when people say, well, my pictures come out blurry, you have to think about both sides of it. Was it me that introduced it, or did I have a shutter speed that might have been incorrect? So, and Maggie, I know you don't agree with me, but
Hey, Bill?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to interrupt if you want to cover something else, but
Oh, no, that's it.
no, getting back to the focal length. Okay, I use a zoom that's like 28 to 300. Now, if I'm focusing on something and I'm at around 200, I shouldn't go below 2/200ths of a second, right?
Correct.
Okay, now, I've always been going out to the max of the focal length just to be safe and
Oh,
say, all
yeah.
right, I'm not shooting below 320.
Oh, yeah, if you, yeah, that should be something in your mind as being a minimum.
Yeah, okay, all
Yeah.
right, got it.
But and then there's certain like I don't know why they mentioned Sony crop sensors, because a lot of us use full frame, that you should even add a little extra to it. But with the newer of cameras now, the vibration reduction is much better. So by staying close to that focal length, the one
Right.
over the focal length as your shutter speed, will do it. It's fine. Any other questions? Any of this that you'd like more information on for a future?
Yes.
Okay, that's good enough.
Bill,
Yeah.
quick. So if you're panning, what shutter speed would you use? Would you still go with the focal length
Well,
with the if it's 70 millimeters away?
it really depends. And what I mean by that is, how much do you want your background to blur? You know, if you want the background to be sharp as well as your subject, and you take it at 1/2000th of a second, you know, and you're panning and take it, you know, the background is going to be less blurry. But if you're following it at, say, 1/25th of a second or 1/500th, you're going to be panning, your subject will be sharp, and then the background will be of appropriate blur based on your shutter speed. So
Okay,
again, it's one of those things with practice.
got it. Okay.
I'm out of here.
I have some background noise, so I'm trying to stay muted so you don't pick it up. But moving on to photos, I've been doing these in the order that they came in, and this week that means Michelle goes first. I
Well,
suppose it would help if you could see your pictures.
Ooh,
Ooh,
all right. So the good news is that this challenge made me pick up my camera versus my phone.
uh-huh.
And literally, I've been so busy that I took 4 photographs and I gave Mike 2 out of the 4. This was one of them. And in the 2 seconds that I thought about what it meant to take a picture in black and white, I focused on 2 compositional elements: A, high contrast, dark and light, and B, positive and negative space.
Mhm.
So those are the 2 things that I was sort of thinking about. And you all are going to get to know the objects on my mantle and around my house, because that seems to be all I take pictures of. So this was just one of the photos. That's a crystal porcupine.
Yeah.
And 2 very heavily tarnished silver pots in the background.
Ah,
So that's all I have to say.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, what I
I love the
find
porcupine.
interesting, you have the kind of high contrast of the 2 pots,
Mhm.
and then the porcupine, which is low contrast, which, you know, kind of blends right into that, like you said, the negative space.
Mhm.
It's a good photo.
yeah.
I
I
like
like,
all the
I like
negative-
it's very sharp, a little less sharp, a little less sharp. So there's kind of motion, perhaps you could say.
Mhm.
You kind of progress.
I like that as well. I like that, you know, the back end of the porcupine is pretty sharp, and then it sort of goes away from there.
I like all the negative space in the background.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Only thing I can say
Michelle,
that I might do differently or just experiment with is turning the porcupine around to have it pointed into the the frame a little.
I'm looking at you.
What was that?
You're having you say move the portrait, so he's looking at the lens?
No, just turn it 180 degrees.
Okay, looking the other way.
Yeah, looking the other way. Into the
Yeah.
frame.
Composition of space would want you looking in. Yep.
Yeah, true. Right.
Great
Good
photo.
point.
Mhm.
All
That was
right.
the way he was facing on the shelf.
He was so.
Didn't want to get too close to her with your hands. Yeah.
Another very dark object against a light wall. Again, the lady and the deer goat thing in the middle are pretty sharp, and everything else fades away. I actually really like the soft shadow behind the sampan, behind the boat.
Yeah. There's interesting detail in all the lighter lighter tones. Ghosty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shallow depth.
And what is that to the right of the boat? That's blurred. I can't tell what it is.
It's a little. It's a vase.
A bit. Okay. All right.
On my mantle. So.
I like how the vase is kind of reminiscent of a building, and you can almost feel like that is on water, and it's cool.
Gauzy.
Yeah, with the blurry shadow, having something back there is effective.
Sort of grounds it in a way.
No, that's good.
Thank you for making me pick up my Sony.
Well,
no, I love the whole black and white assignment, because it really does make you think. You know, more so than what you would do shooting in color.
Yeah. Okay, Bill is next.
Just the barn?
Yep, that's the barn. What I did is I got in really, really tight on it. And the lights were, I guess they were on that night. So you can see inside the bulb there that they were burning.
Yeah.
And this was just a single shot. And the whole idea was just to keep the fixture of the light in focus, because you can see how quickly the image fades out, just like what we were just talking about. So yeah, I tried to find that kind of a high contrast between the bulb and the fixture. I forgot to write down what the settings were, but looking at the fall off, I'm guessing I was probably somewhere around 2.8 or 4 f-stop.
Okay.
Because it was really dark in there too. I mean, it was just that the light was pretty bright.
Now, I like the way you angled the light. You know, it's not like straight out. You know, it adds a whole dimension to this.
Yeah, I took it a number of different ways, and for this assignment, this seemed like certainly the right way to go.
Is this one of the ones you took that night we were out there?
I forget if it was the first night or the second night, but yeah, it's when we were all together out there.
Hey, Bill, did you selectively focus that in post?
No, the only thing I did in post was a little contrast, maybe a little cropping, and one of the bulbs was really overly bright. I mean, one of those little strands of white, the bulb was kind of going, let's see, what's the word I'm looking for, but the only selection that I did was within the bulb to keep all the filaments straight and not over burnt out. But,
okay.
But there's really very little post processing.
It's just remarkable how in focus the lamp is, and the foreground of the siding is in focus, but it just drops into out of focus very quickly. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm not smart enough to do it in post.
I'm looking for a squirrel's head, Bill. Remember that squirrel?
Yes.
Oh, the squirrel, yeah, that climbed up the side of the barn and went in that hole.
Yeah, scared me to death.
This next one's also Bill's.
Excellent.
Ah,
Nice.
Good one.
I really
This-
like that.
yeah, I love the texture on this one.
And what I did with this one, I got within maybe 18 inches actually of the wall there and the all that wood. And I tried two things. I tried one shooting at f11 because all this wood is starting to, it's not a flat, it's not in a nice plane in front of you where if, no matter what f-stop you use, it's all going to be in focus. So it's actually on an angle. And what I did with this one is I took 9 separate images, and in Affinity, I went through and I did focus stacking. So by picking 9 different spots on here and put it all together, the software decides what's the most in focus and then puts it into one image. And I probably should have taken 2 more at the very edges of the left side, the top and the bottom. It just starts fading off a little bit there. Otherwise, it would have selected that area on one of the images and made it completely sharp all the way through. But or I could have cropped it a little bit and not told you I made a mistake. But
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good pick.
So sharp.
Great shot, Bill.
Nice texture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Susan.
And I,
Nice.
Nice.
the shadows.
Yeah.
although I should say I should never follow Bill, but this is in my pond, and this was the water irises starting to come up, and I did adjust the contrast just a bit, and I did crop it, and I probably enhanced it. But I have to say, shooting in black and white I really enjoyed it. That was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It is.
Well, don't sell yourself short, Susan. I mean, the composition is nice and there is a lot of tonality through it.
Yeah.
And if you'd gone any
Yeah, I like
darker in the shadows, you would have lost the detail. So I don't have any problem with the exposure.
Perfect.
So that is in, Sue, that is in water, like those leaves are like lying on the surface or even under, right?
Under, yeah.
Under, okay.
Shallow, but under, yeah. And there was actually a branch, a white thing on the right side that I got out of there because it was
Okay, nice.
It was really nice.
And then with black and white, what's always important is to get shadows and
Nice composition. Very nice.
Nice.
I love this one.
Oh.
So I was walking along my driveway and I saw these maples, and actually they were pink, and that was why I brought them in. And I just picked them up and I thought, well, I'm just going to throw them in this bowl that I have. And then I thought, well, I'll take a shot of it, even though what I really like about it is the pink. And this is what I got.
Oh, it shows all the veining and it's lovely.
Yeah.
Looks
Very
great.
nice.
Great focusing.
How did you, were you using a tripod here? Or-
No, just standing there, just trying to be steady.
The texture of the bowl adds a lot too.
Yeah.
Mhm. And the contrast.
And using water. Right.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
they are. They're floating.
That's right.
Ah,
I didn't notice that at first.
They are floating.
But, yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
thank you.
So you can handhold. Boy, I couldn't handhold That good.
Steady hands.
So
Nicely
did you
done,
say
Sue.
what shutter speed you took this at?
What's that?
What shutter speed did you?
It was F8 and the shutter speed was 1/30th of a second and the
Wow.
the
Wow.
ISO was 1250. I just had it on aperture priority on F8.
No, steady hands, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Nice.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Lynn.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
So this charming lady is 93 years old and she's my next door neighbor. And so I had the ISO set at 64 at f 2.8 and 1/160th of a second. It was 70 millimeter handheld. And in the effort to be full disclosure, Mike sharpened a little bit of it for me, I think. But anyway,
That's a great portrait.
I love old faces and I like black and white portraits.
Yeah.
You know what I like about it too is that I know at one point they always said don't cut anything off, like keep everything on the head but the more and more I see where you do lop off a little bit, I like them better.
Oh, this is really cropped. You could see her lap and her hands, and so I cropped it a lot.
Yeah.
Well, what do you
Yeah.
see the next one, Frank?
Catch light in the eyes.
Nice portrait.
Yes.
There you go, Frank.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Ooh.
This is the son of the lady.
Oh,
And the same, I used the same settings, but I really cropped it.
wow.
How did you light it intentionally from below?
This was, no, that's just his beard's white. No, these were outside on her front porch. So
It looks like the light's reflecting maybe off the porch or something, because
Right.
very nice.
Well, it was in the afternoon, and the west is to his left, our right.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just, but they were sitting in the shade. And anyway, I just love his eyes.
Yeah, I love the reflection in the eyes. You're trying to determine what is he seeing there.
There's a whole lot going on in those eyes.
Yeah.
He teaches yoga. He's a really interesting character. And he's there taking care of his mother.
Oh, that is an amazing portrait.
Thank you.
That is.
And a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sure looks like a yogi.
That's what I was thinking. Exactly.
Very peaceful face and a lot of depth. Very nice.
Yogi Berra.
Oh, thank you.
Great shot.
That is great.
Thank you.
All right, Tom.
Wow.
Little fungi.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you have it. It's a bust. Okay. A broken bench.
Great contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a nice scene. I thought, oh, that'd be nice. I put it off center because I liked to gives a little more weight to those leaves over on the right that are encroaching, and also just seems like off center. The fact that it was broken, I don't know. That seemed right to me.
No, I like the texture on the bench.
Yeah, it's all covered with lichen.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. This is right behind Chatham Mill.
Oh, okay.
You spend a lot of time behind there, don't you, Tom?
I do.
I gotta go behind Chatham Mill.
Well, in fact, I'm working.
Won't they let you in?
Yeah, right.
I've said before that what Tom's doing with frames, even on video, they really do help, and I think that especially with black and white, any border around that white border around really does cause a lot of pop in the contrast.
Mhm.
Good shot, Tom.
Thank you.
Yes.
And this one knocks my socks off.
Mm,
Oh, nice.
Water tower.
yeah.
Ah,
Whoa.
Is it?
Yeah, I mentioned to Mike, when you get into something with this geometric is this, boy, you've got to spend a lot of time making sure it's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did. I spent a lot of time working with the perspective tool in post. And you know that I know the assignment was black and white, and I learned some things. If people have a minute, I did some experimenting, and I determined with my camera and with my software, my post software, if I set my camera to black and white and shoot in black and white, there will be no color. Except, of course, that you are shooting color, because when I shoot JPEG and RAW, well, the RAW, and when I see my thumbnail, the RAW image is black and white, but when I open it, it's color. So you are shooting in color, and the black and white is achieved through filtering. But my filter in the camera was 100%. I never found any color anywhere. Then I tried another thing where I processed, again, I shot in the camera with black and white, the black and white set, the camera set to black and white. And then I hit the black and white thing in my develop section. And again, absolutely no color. Then I set it to black and white in my processing part, the main processing part of Affinity. And there was all kinds of color. All kinds of colors start coming through in the form of fringing. But even some beyond that. And then when I would focus in all the way down in and pick and said huge big pixels, you could see that everything was in color.
Was that with the JPEG?
That's with the JPEG. No.
It's probably wrong.
Yes, with the JPEG. With the JPEG in and process and using the not the raw processor, but the main processor in Affinity. So I just found it very interesting.
Well, Tom, what executive summary? If you were going to, if you wanted a black and white print,
Number one, shoot in, set your camera to black and white. Secondly, if you didn't do that, hopefully you shot in RAW and then use the black and white thing for RAW. And lastly, the least acceptable was processing the JPEG in black and white. So I did lots of tests.
Yeah.
And I kept, no matter what I do, if I just went right to the JPEG, I could always find fringing. Now, in my processing, I can eliminate fringing, but you have to do it. And it just means to me that the filter in the camera is better than the filter in processing. In the JPEG processing, it was fine. When you did black and white in the raw filter, the raw processing, it was fine. Anyway, that's it.
Wow.
well, good
In the
experiment.
meantime,
This is
yeah,
great.
it was fun.
All right.
Really?
Chuck,
Oh,
Okay.
lots of contest.
Yeah, this was on Sunday, 2 days ago. I was participating in a cycling event, and I had my camera with me. I figured, maybe I could see some things photograph, whether it was for this challenge or not. And I was getting ready to head out to the ride. So this is stuff that I would carry with me, some electronic stuff. There's a little profile of the course there, those little sawtooth looking things. Those are all the 2 big ass climbs that I did. And then there's some gels, that's nutrition, little packets in the front. And then there's some cookies in a plastic bag. But anyway, it came out okay. I thought the texture of the wood showed through, and I kind of like the negative space of the blanket, even though it still got some texture. And I did a couple different exposures, and I shot this in I switched my camera to shoot in monochrome and in RAW. It was funny when I imported it into my editing, which is Elements, Photoshop Elements. I was surprised to see that as it imported the RAW, it was in color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to switch it to monochrome, in the
Raw
processing, but
Raw is raw.
yeah. And I have to say, I mean, I first learned photography shooting black and white film, but I really don't think that way anymore when I photograph. And so I guess this was a good challenge because you always learn things, but I just do not think about photographing landscapes and stuff in black and white. So it's an interesting challenge.
Hey, we need a 30-day challenge, just black and white on your JPEGs, and have the RAW just in case you want the color. But
I might leave my camera. I might forget where my camera was and ride my bike more if I had to do that. I feel like I'm always in competition with myself.
Yeah.
Am I going to pay attention to my cycling, or am I going to pay attention to my photography? Anyway,
Oh, that's
what
great.
I did.
Whoa.
I guess I got a thing for ants because I did that other ant, but
Yeah.
there I was
Nice.
in my kitchen, and the ants were back. They come and go. So what they're doing here is they're feeding on the very thing that's going to make them go. Too bad for them. But I just, I relocate a lot of stuff, but I don't relocate ants. I just get rid of them. This is on a granite countertop that's mostly black and white anyway. I mean, different shades of it. And I did, this is a focus stack of 3 images. I used a tripod and I used a flash. I can't remember now if I had the flash off to the side, like a remote flash, or if it was, I think I may have just used my on-camera flash for this one. I was experimenting with both. And then what else? Oh, I had a macro adapter ring on here. So anyway, this was an ISO of 1000, and I really am not sure why I had it that high, but 82 millimeter. That's the converted, so as it would be full frame, but f11 at a 250th of a second, and as I say, a flash did go off, and it's heavily cropped. Like I really blew it up and then focused in to get this detail.
That's great.
I love
The
this shot.
curve of that. I like the curve.
Yeah.
Again, talking about motion.
Yeah, when I try to do the composition, I like that. It was there was a drop of this, of this poison. It's like borax or whatever it is that they use. And so they were all around this spot, and I thought, well, that's what caught my eye at first. Was like, that's interesting. But yeah, so I settled in on a segment of it.
Good shot, Chuck.
Great shot.
Thanks.
Frank is next.
Hey, Chuck.
No, Bob is next. Sorry, Bob.
Okay. So I also shot in RAW, and I had the same experience. I had my camera on monochrome, and the picture turned out color. So then I had to change it in process. So that I didn't expect that to happen, and I know we didn't want to do that, but that's the way. That was a learning experience for me. So did some work on contrast, and I got to be honest, Mike helped me. I spent some time with Mike yesterday. I appreciate his help, and helped me a
Fun
lot
for
in
me too.
enhancement. Yeah, so that was a good session. Had 1/30th of a second shutter speed, f7.1, ISO of 100, and so that was that one. This was a little cabin on Meacham Road. It's the back way from Farrington to Jones Ferry. I don't know if anybody knows where Meacham
Yeah, I
Road
know
is.
Meacham. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of a cool cabin sitting in front of a nice house. So,
Yeah.
and that's it for that one.
It is nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Ah,
There aren't many of those buildings left, are there?
no.
Yeah. Okay, these are the most photographed chickens in around. These are in Farrington, and kind of worked out well for black and white.
Mhm.
Great
160,
black and white subject.
160th second shutter, ISO 100, f7.1, and again worked on the contrast. And the thing I learned yesterday from Mike is there's a lot that can be done with enhancements, and
Mhm.
I don't use or I haven't used enhancements much at all. You know, it's an option in editor, and it's something I'm going to play around with more. But that helped a bunch. That's it.
Ah, great.
One
Nice job, Bob.
suggestion might be that, consider these guys are normally walking around pretty much, and maybe
Right.
use shutter priority and just lift the shutter speed a little, make it a little faster.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
I'm outside, I'm probably not seeing this image real well, but it looked like the eyes were a little blurry. Am I right? Or
I can't tell from this
Yeah,
picture.
it's hard to tell.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
a little soft.
yeah,
I think they had been drinking, maybe.
You were the chickens.
Both of us. Yeah.
this was after the party.
Yeah.
But maybe just think
A
of
little
like what we were
faster
talking
shutter
about
speed.
before about the shutter speeds. That
Okay, that makes
maybe a
sense.
scene is better off with shutter priority other than aperture priority.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to almost always use aperture priority, and that's a good suggestion.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, now Frank.
Nice. All right. This was I was up in Washington D.C. over the weekend, and I went up on Friday, and it was raining all day Friday, all day Saturday, and Sunday morning the sun finally came out. So I got up early, went out on the street. We were staying kind of near the Kennedy Center because we went to a show there, and I saw this guy walking down the sidewalk, and the sun was shining on the other side of him. You can see his shadow on this side. So it kind of looked like he was, the old walking into the sun, as you're checking out. And I thought, wow, that's what that kind of reminded me of. So I took this shot of him walking into the sun. And the nice thing about it too was since it had rained the day before and during the night, there was a little bit of glistening on the branches when the sun was reflecting off of them.
So is that, I have a question because I actually saw a photo online and there
Yeah,
were pictures of people and I saw that outline on them also. So
Yeah.
was that outline on his body just there? It was
because
sort
of the sun shining on the other side of him.
Yep. The
Yeah.
bright sun.
because I think that's interesting the way there's that
Yeah.
outline. Like I said, online, I saw a photograph and I saw that outline on these people and it almost looked like they'd been put in the photograph, but I
No.
knew that.
No, this came through. I'm sure like, if he wasn't walking into the sun, you probably wouldn't have seen that,
Nope.
And
Just interesting.
there is a thing called chromatic aberration,
Mm-hmm.
especially on color. You'll get a fringe around objects if you tweak it too much. I haven't studied chromatic aberration much
No.
to give very good explanation, but I didn't recognize this as that. I think it is the just the sunlight.
Yeah.
I believe that's generally referred to as rim lighting.
Yeah, and the one thing you kind of caught there is his left foot was off the ground.
Yeah.
The
Yep.
right foot looked like his leg come down, and then you could see the shadow where you could see
Yeah.
the gap in that one.
See it separated. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's perfectly placed amongst all the other chaos going on, you know, you could,
Yeah.
great timing there.
It's just, that's a very effective picture.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Very
you.
nice composition.
Yeah, I am always kind of interested in street photography, especially after that one video we saw. It's interesting. So I thought, well, I'm going to be in the city. Where else can you get to do that? But this was taken the day before. We went to the African American Museum, and it was still raining, obviously, because the woman's got a umbrella. But I saw this family. I assume it was a family out there grabbing something to eat on that bench, and so I thought, oh, that would be an interesting one. So I took it, but then I kind of cropped in a little more. And the thing I liked about it was they were kind of framed with that rim going around the bench, and then that rim on top, and then their reflections in the back off of the stone there, kind of added to it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I agree. Looks
Yeah,
good.
it's such a great black and white, kind of portrait photography in a way. You know what I'm saying? All the reflections and everything.
Yeah. They were an interesting family, and again, I like the fact that he was going to eat first. The other ones could wait before he's done.
And you see their reflection in the back there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do y'all think about taking out those bricks on the upper right-hand corner?
Yeah, I probably could have cropped that out. That does kind of take away from it.
Yeah, you could have kept the
And
reflection.
Kind of gives you some context for where you are. I don't know. I struggle with things like that. I'm never sure what to do.
Probably the best thing to do is take them out, leave them in, and then do another one, take them out, and just see which one hits you better.
Yeah.
Or do a clone and make it more trees.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Mm.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you ask these people? Let me
Yeah,
ask.
did you talk? That's my
Oh, I
question.
walked out and they were so engrossed in their food. I just, I was shooting through the back of the camera. I had the mirror up,
Yeah.
and I was like I was looking at something, and then just got a picture of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
No
He
expectation
didn't
of
even
privacy.
it's because somebody's eating, they're not going to pay attention to you.
Again, that wet pavement, boy, that's your friend, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
We
like
have
I
a
said, it rained all
couple
day.
from Larry and a couple from Mark. And as long as we're filming or videoing, they can pick up comments we make when they tune into the video, which I hope they will do. And this first
Mark's
one-
here.
Mark's at the bottom.
Mark's
I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
okay. I have minimized the who's talking frame, and I didn't see that. So, well, let's skip to Mark's and come back to Larry's then. Mark, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm on my cell phone, so it's kind of, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What you see, well, first of all, I shot this in black and white film. This is ASA 400. So I was trying to take your challenge to the level of black and white, but it's tricky. If y'all remember the old cameras where you don't see, if they're not digital, you don't see what you're shooting. You have no idea what you're shooting.
Right. Right.
And so you don't get to see your shot until it's printed. And this shot is out on Jones Ferry Road. This is, I think, about an f11. I think the ISO on this was maybe 200, something like that. I think it's about 70 millimeters or so. I can't remember what the shutter speed was. But I took this shot, and then I started playing around with some of the filters. And I did some work with the contrast. I did a little bit of work with the exposure. I put a vignette on it. And there's another filter. It's kind of like an old timey filter. I use that as well. and I also used the warmth, which kind of gave it a little bit of a different texture. But again, playing around with a camera that you can't see what you shoot, it's kind of a, you don't know what in the hell you're going to get.
Right.
You know, so that's
Well,
what I got.
Mark, when you're saying you were making those adjustments, does it depend on who processes it for you? Do you get to see the negative and play with it?
Yeah, Tony processed it for me and sent me the negatives. Then I could play around. I played around with, but I couldn't do anything with it as I was shooting it because I didn't know what I was shooting. You know.
So, for example, where you nipped off that corner of the roof, that you got what you got, you can't go back and fix that.
I can't go back and get that back.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. And I figured somebody'd call me out on that, but it is what it is.
Well, and
you know, I couldn't move the camera over and do it again.
Right. I like the tone.
you
I can't remember.
You do get the negatives, and you can have them do a CD, so you have it a digital format
Electronic version
to work.
Yeah.
The key is to find somebody that does a good job of processing, because once that negative is processed, you're stuck with it. And having a good lab, you know, I think if Timothy was here, he does a lot of film. He processes his own, so that way he knows what he's going to get. But
right. Well, my buddy Tony at Cardinal Camera did this in Charlotte, and
you can trust him.
But this house is on. Well, I can, and again, I'm playing around with something I hadn't done in 40 years, so just wanted to see, and it was a good time of day. I think it was about 9 o'clock, so I had pretty good light, so I was happy with that. So again, playing around with something, we get so used to looking at the image that we've taken to say, do I like that and do I not like it? Whereas with this case, you get what you get.
Yeah.
And this was actually what I don't like about it is there's not a lot of background to the other image because it was on the side. It's on the side of the road. So there wasn't any woods in the back or anything like that. So having some fun with
but those trees are awesome.
Mark. The trees and the contrast, it kind of gives a haunted look.
It does.
Some sort of story. I'm not sure which.
And I'll give Mike a plug. That was his D850 camera that I was using. So there you go.
Nice.
Hey, Mark, was that Jones Ferry Road or Crawford Dairy Road?
I'm sorry, you're exactly right. It was Crawford's Dairy. My bad.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because I've photographed that same house.
You know, right across the street from that, there's an old barn.
Yeah.
There's an old barn and a little cabin in there that I went and shot that. It's not very memorable, but yeah, that was interesting. This guy here, now this is a different story. This is also with black and white film, and I think it was ASA 100, and I know it was F11. I think the ISO was maybe 100. This is at Luna Antiques, which is out, Mike, in your area on 64. The bad part about this was like 11 o'clock in the morning, so the light was just absolutely terrible, and it was hot. And I kind of had to play around with this one too because it was a lot. It was overexposed, and so I hit the exposure and I underexposed it a little bit and played around with the other settings to give it a little bit of an antique-y look. Unfortunately, the background over to the right, you know, it would have been nice if none of that stuff was there, but that is what it is. But probably an old truck that Mike used to drive.
When I'm still driving.
No, he's still driving. He's still driving.
I like it saying we buy old cars. It kind of adds to it to me.
But if y'all want to take a field trip, that's Luna Antiques on 64 is full of, you've probably seen it. He's probably got 200 gas pumps out there, old time gas pumps and old time farm equipment and old time cars and trucks and he loves for photography people to come out and shoot it. So
but where on 64?
You go out of Siler City and it's down about 20 minutes on the right there on 64. Yeah. on
In
the right.
Randolph County? In Randolph
Yeah, I
County
know
or
where that
before?
You know, it might be closer to Ramsar, but it might be. I knew somebody was going to ask me, and I didn't. I don't have the answer to that.
I don't
But
think,
anyway,
I don't think this is between Pittsboro and Siler. It may be beyond on 64, but
No, it's Siler City going towards Ramsar.
It's either
Okay.
between Siler and Ramsar, or maybe the other side
Yep.
of Ramsar.
Could be, could very well be.
Yeah.
But it's
Where
fun.
that's-
It's fun. He's got a whole building inside full of stuff.
Yep.
You know,
Oh,
that
I
was-
know where
was-
that place is.
Yeah.
You all have seen it. If you've been on 64, you've
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
It's got
And
a fence around it.
I got a side note here for Frank. Frank, you said you was at the museum at DC, the African American Museum.
Yeah.
My son was on the architectural design team that designed that museum. That was the last thing they built there at the square.
Wow.
That's-
Wow. Yeah,
It's
they
a
did a
pretty
beautiful job on
amazing
it.
building. It's a pretty amazing building, that's for sure.
It is. It really grabs your attention when you come, you're walking off of the mall and you come and you see it right there. You know, it kind of
Right,
feels like a ship.
right.
Mark,
Say,
Mark,
while I'm still on the air, Frank, are you coming tomorrow?
Yeah. You still have
You're
room
in.
for two?
Yep. I'm just confirming with everybody. Save me an email. Bill, are you coming?
Oh yeah, and I'm picking up Minnie.
Pardon me?
And I'm picking up Minnie.
Oh, you're picking up Minnie Gallon? Okay, great. I didn't know you knew her. That's perfect. That's perfect.
all right,
Okay.
Mark, glad
Then
you
you guys can
join
report
us.
back to the club. Thank you, folks.
Okay,
Mark,
Going
thanks.
back to Frank. I'm not Frank. I'm going back to Larry.
Larry.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see it, but there is quite a bit of detail in the dark areas. There might have been a little bit more detail, but this is, I love the way he got the sky. I mean, black and white so often
Mhm.
we'll get the sky washed out. A red filter
Mhm.
on film camera would bring it out, but this is a nice shot, a nice landscape.
Mhm.
Did he do that on a film camera?
Oh no! I got hung up on red filters. You can do red filters in some digital post programs as well. It's not you can well, it's a digital red filter, but in old days you carried a red filter and a yellow filter. But this is a good shot. The other one,
I think it's great, but why isn't it a panorama? It should be a panorama, not, there's nothing in the, all the way at the, I can't tell where the bottom of the frame is because it's black on black, but
yeah, and there
I
there
mean,
is
it would-
detail down there. I don't know if you can see
there you
it
go.
when I blow it up. I think it's a fault of the monitor rather than anything else. It's not. It could be a
Probably
little
16
lighter,
by
but
9 format.
there is detail. And this was the other one
As you
that
blow it
it'd
up.
be-
this was the other one that Larry submitted, and I don't have any information about this one. Looks like an incredible condo.
Yeah.
Did he say where these were taken?
I think it's on the Oregon or Washington coast.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not
He's
sure. I
been
know that
in,
he.
Oregon.
I think maybe he sent these before he made the trip. So I don't know where they are. It looks like ocean to me.
If if you look closely, you can see he had some spots on his lens. I only recognize it because I have that on mine all the time.
Oh yeah, I see that now.
Yeah, right.
Drives me
there.
crazy.
Yeah,
Oh.
and another one up to the right.
And I just want to turn it a few degrees to the left.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
yeah,
Tilted, yep.
I think it needs rotating too. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I saved mine for the end in case we didn't have times, but I guess I'll go to them. Come on.
You should always show yours, Mike.
I think there's kind of a mixed bag of opinions about whether you start with color and convert it to black and white, or whether you shoot it in black and white. And these were shot in color, um, adjusted in color, and then converted to black and white. The winner on these shots on Flickr, in terms of number of views, has been with the color one on this one, and the black and white on the other one. I'll show in a minute. But there's a software company called On One, and there are in On One there are some black and white film filters, and that's basically all I did to this. I converted it in that program rather than in Elements.
So I have a question. May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm interested that you said that you adjusted it in color and then converted it to black and white. I converted it to black and white and then made my adjustments. Do you get a different result?
Well, I know
That's a
that
good
there are
question.
some articles out there that say that there in color there is data that the black and white picture can pick up on.
Complementary colors.
I'm sorry.
Complementary colors. It gives you a different result. Yeah.
I didn't tweak this one much at all once I'd converted it. I just applied the filter and moved on.
Mike, did you do anything adjustments to it after you saw the black and white image?
No,
Or were you good
not
with
that
it?
I remember, Mark. It on my screen, it doesn't look in this view, it doesn't look as contrasty as I think it really is. But anyway, that was
Yeah,
one.
it's really
Seems like but part of the thing about the color picture is that so much of it, it's attractive, is the different colors of the bricks.
Yeah, yeah.
And the green contrast. So it's almost like the subject of the one on the right makes more sense to be in color.
Yeah, I agree, Susan.
Mike, I didn't understand. Did you shoot it raw or?
Yeah, converted the raw, and again, I don't do very much processing in raw unless the shot's bad and I need to recover it somehow. But I converted it from raw to a TIFF, made all my adjustments there once I was
As a TIFF.
as a TIFF. There's more data in a TIFF than there is a JPEG.
Right.
And then applied the filter from On One. And I did the same thing on this shot. And this one, as I said, the Flickr poll was with the black and white.
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Was that in the morning, Mike?
No, it was in the afternoon when
Right.
when a number of us went over to Farrington Village.
Okay.
One interesting thing to me in this one is that whatever that vent, I guess it's a vent and a lightning rod together, but in the original it was almost nothing more than a pinpoint. I had a 50 millimeter lens, and that was all I had, and so I was far away, and I was amazed that it came out as sharp as it did.
Mhm.
Well,
And this is a good
I like the
challenge.
black and white.
I'm sorry, Tom.
To me, the black and white to me is superior to the color one. I love the black and white.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great contrast on that image.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Were
I
you
used an
using a
On One
tripod?
filter for this one too.
Were you using a tripod?
Nope.
Wow.
I love the way the sky looks in the black and white. especially.
Yeah.
The gradient.
All right. Escape.
Wow,
Stop share.
that was a good exercise and it resulted in a lot of good pictures.
Yeah, very good.
I think Larry forgot us. I got an email from
Oh, did you? What do you
him during the
say?
meeting, yeah.
Uh,
He's on Pacific time, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay,
because I
so look
sent
for
out the,
Helen's note about signing up for the potluck, and look for information about that we need to for the exhibit, number of photos that you want to submit, title of it.
Okay.
Any other things to talk about?
And 411 is abstracts.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna send out that revised listing
Okay.
right after the meeting. I gotta make the change. Swap
Okay,
out,
great.
but right now, if you're looking at the old one, just swap the abstraction with the cemetery. But
Got it.
I'll go out and send it out. That way everybody has the most up to date.
Great.
All right,
right.
folks. Have a good
Thank you,
rest
guys.
of your week and a
Bye.
good weekend, and see you in 2 weeks at the church.
Great.
Good
Thank you,
job,
Mike.
everyone.
Adios.
Enjoyed it.
Take it easy,
Bye.
everybody.
Okay, so long.
Sorry I was late.
Bye-bye.
Bye.